everybody. Today we're going to do a quick review of the Cask of Amontillado vocab list. I'm going to note that unlike other videos, I'm not going to be pausing or editing if I make mistakes, so bear with me if I stumble at any point. This video's pure purpose is to just go through and show you your vocab words like we would in class. Now there is a disclaimer here that this vocab list, while it covers some key vocab words that would be practical for everyday 8th grade use, we are also skipping a lot of words that don't have any practical use at an 8th grade level in the 21st century. Words like redressed, impunity, immolation, flambeau, palazzo, roquelaire. They're words that are good to know. Some of them are foreign words, but you're not going to be using them in regular 8th grade conversation, so we're not doing them on this list, but you should be aware that all words are important. It's good to increase your vocab, expand your vocab. So redressed, impunity, immolation are words that you'll probably come across here and there, but they're not words I hear in the hallway in the middle school. So first we have the word implore, and depending on which book we read first this year, you probably heard imploringly, which is an adverb. And they mean the same thing, just different parts of speech. Implore is a verb to say to beg urgently. So if I said something like, I implore you, please don't do this, I'm basically begging, and that's what implore means. For accost is a verb that means to confront boldly or in a hostile manner. There are a lot of examples online for this. We have things like, I don't know, celebrities getting accosted by fans. I think a bully would accost someone that they're bullying. Criminals might accost people. It's not always a physical thing. In fact, it's definitely not always physical, but it's when someone comes and confronts you about something. Maybe it's for an argument or something you did and they don't like it and they come at you. They're accosting you. They're confronting you in a bold manner. The word perceive, I like using Where's Waldo for this because you have to practice your perception. That's the noun form of this. If you've heard of depth perception or anything like that, to perceive is to become aware of or to notice. So when you are looking for Waldo, the moment you find him, you've perceived him. But this also works for really any time you're trying to figure out something or try to notice something. If you're looking for something in a room, like your lost keys and you find them, that would be perceiving. Vigorously. Vigorously is an adverb. It means strongly. This is, in fact, as far as I can recall, I think it's the only adverb on this list, so that'll be easy for the vocab. Remember that ly at the end, the suffix, shows you often that it's an adverb. I always think of drinks and other things where the instructions say when you're cooking, shake vigorously. That means not just to give it a gentle shake, it means to shake strongly. And just like this picture here where the person's scrubbing the floor, if there's a stain on the floor, you're going to have to scrub vigorously to get that stain out. So for catacombs, I know we know this word, or many people have heard of it before, but it's the setting of our story, so we need to understand what this is because it'll create the mood and it'll help us understand what's going on better. The catacombs are an underground burial ground with tunnels. In a lot of places in the world, there were these underground burial grounds. They're pretty famous in France. There's actually, I believe, at least one in the United States. But what you should know about the catacombs is that they are kind of spooky. There's a lot of dead bodies there. In some places, people couldn't bury their deceased in the city. So just note that this is our setting and we should be aware of what the catacombs are. Now, I know the word revenge is a word that most people know. We're using it as a noun here, and it's an act of punishment based on past wrongdoings. You've probably heard of words like avenge, vengeance, the movie The Avengers, that V-E-N-G is all in there. And just note that it's an act of punishment. So we're going to have a character that's trying to get revenge, and it's very important you know what that word means, even though many of you might have known it already, so that's why it's on this list. So we have our first idiom here, and we may have gone over idioms already in class, I'm not sure, depending on when you're watching this video, but idioms are phrases that don't go by their literal meaning, they go by their figurative meaning. Some examples might be things like, it's raining cats and dogs. It's not literally raining cats and dogs, but figuratively, the rain is coming down so heavily that it looks like or feels like the rain is heavier than just liquid. I will note that in vain just means with no purpose. You've probably heard something like, don't use the Lord's name in vain. The word vain itself means unsuccessful, useless, futile. So if you're doing something in uselessness or doing it with futility, it just means you have no real purpose. It's not going to have a successful outcome. The word engage has a lot of great context clues for this one. It means as a verb to get the full attention of, to interact with. I like using the hint of when people get engaged, to be married, because it's not fully the same thing, but the idea is that you are deciding to interact with someone for the rest of your life, get their full attention for the rest of their life. I know that's an odd way to say it. We also have engagements, another word for battles, where two sides are interacting with each other. And just basically know that when we're saying engage, don't always think of it as just the previous step before a marriage, it also means that you can engage someone by getting their attention, by interacting with them. That's what the word engage means. Now, mortal is adjective, and we've talked about this a little bit when we were personifying death, because I'm assuming we've done that at this point. If not, we'll be doing it soon. But mortal means subject to death or capable of dying. The video game Mortal Kombat is a great example for video game fans, because the whole point of Mortal Kombat is that one character is going to die by the end of the match, and so that means there's some mortality there. That's the noun form. So when you think of mortals, the word immortal is the opposite, using that prefix of "im." It's the opposite, meaning that you're not subject to death, so you can use that as well if that helps you. But mortal itself means that you can possibly die. You are capable of dying. And we have this one here. It's venture. That's a verb that means to take a risk. I have the Venture Brothers up here because they were some brothers that took adventures. I know it's an outdated reference, but if you've seen it on Cartoon Network or anything like that, it's a useful example. But just think of adventure. If you're going on an adventure, you are taking a risk. Another good phrase, if you know it, is does anyone want to venture a guess? You're taking a risk there because you don't actually know the answer, but it might be something that is worth doing. So, that is your vocab list. If you have any questions on these words, we'll obviously have some worksheets to go through in class. We'll do some lessons with these also. But make sure you know these words before the reading. It's part of your pre-reading activity to make sure you understand some key words so that when you come to them, you are prepared to keep reading. And to add to that, if you don't know a word, always remember, use your context clues, use your knowledge of prefixes, suffixes, root words. Always try to find a way to understand a word, and if you don't know what a word means, there's always the option of a dictionary, a thesaurus, or something of that nature. Use your resources, use your skills whenever you are completing a reading. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and have a nice day.